Today we're going to study memory of Jared Orchen, the Haftorah of Tisha B'Av. A week from today will be Tisha B'Av. On Tisha B'Av day, we are reading Haftorah 2. In the morning we're actually reading two Haftorahs on Tisha B'Av. In the morning and afternoon. The afternoon we read the Haftorah like every other first day. In the morning we have a special Haftorah dedicated for Tisha B'Av. And it's page 1509. The Haftorah is on the book of Jeremiah, a half of chapter 8 and 3/4 of chapter 9. A long Haftorah actually. It's more a Haftorah of lamentation. Kind of Jeremiah is lamenting before the destruction. He sees with his spirit, with his eyes, he so to speak sees the future. He's seeing the destruction of the temple. And he tells the Jews, what are you doing? What's going to be here? He cries in advance on what is going to happen. To be Jeremiah was not easy. He was a prophet who predicted the bad future, the doom and gloom. And people didn't believe him many times. And on one hand, he loved the people so much, but he had to warn them from the calamity that comes their way if they don't change. Then let's start to read a little bit, and we'll take it from there. It's on page 1509, the bottom there. I will
eradicate them from the world, says God. There will be no grapes left on the vine, and no figs on the fig tree. The leaves will be obliterated, and I will give them enemies who will remove them from the world.
That's very, very bad news. God will say that we will eradicate the Jews from the world. There will be no grapes on the wine, and there will be no figs. Nothing will be there, and even whatever will be, the enemies will come and remove it.
When the enemy comes, the people of the fields will say, "Why are we sitting around like bait for our enemies?"
We're sitting here. Yeah, let's
gather together and come
to the fortified cities.
To the fortified cities, though even there we will probably be destroyed. For God, our God, has destroyed us. He has made us drink bitter hemlock, for we have sinned against God.
What's hemlock?
It's a poison.
Poison. God is giving. Go ahead.
They hope for peace, but nothing is good. They hope for a time of relief, but instead there is terror.
God, that I must tell you, I'm sorry for bringing you here to learn this, but it's not exciting news. He says they will be, even when they run away from the open places to the fortified cities, it's not going to help, because the enemy will come in the fortified city. Even he says that they hope for good, and it's not coming. They hope for relief, and it's not going, and it's coming, and terror is coming.
I mean, that's something, though.
What means something?
That they were hoping, so they were hoping for peace.
They were hoping, but they're not doing
good. They weren't just complete degenerates. They weren't like really. I mean, what made them so bad?
In a minute, we'll see what made them so bad.
All the things
Who was the enemy that was coming to destroy the temple?
Babylon.
The Babylonian. Okay, read the next word.
The sorting of horses will already be heard from Dan.
Okay. The sorting horses will be heard already from Dan. Where is Dan?
North. Due north.
North. You were there? Anybody was there in Israel? There's a place it's called Tel Dan. In the north, very high, next to Kiryat Shmona.
Yeah.
Tel Dan. Why it says from Dan we will hear already the noise of their horses. From the edge of Israel will be in Jerusalem, we'll hear already it's coming. But the Medrash tells us something very, very interesting. Nowhere with the place Dan is mentioned already.
It's a tribe.
There is a tribe. But the place Dan, it's named after the tribe. But it's mentioned already in the Torah You see, this is said by Jeremiah. Jeremiah lived 2,500 years ago. But much before that was written about a war that they came until Dan. And by Dan they stopped. They didn't go any further. They didn't continue to war. Was somebody in the history of the Bible was going to war and he stopped when he reached to Dan. To tell Dan.
Not Joshua.
Before Joshua.
Oh, wasn't it Abraham?
Beautiful.
It was with the 4 and 5 kings.
4 and 5 kings.
Yeah,
Well, you can go on. You don't.
Don't go.
The story there is a story that there was a war between 4 kings and 5 kings. How we know about the war? Because in the war was one of the kings, the place of Sodom and Gomorrah was involved in the war, and the 4 kings took over the 5 kings and took the people as prisoners of war.
And Lot was one of them.
And Lot was one of them, yes. And somebody who came to Abraham to tell him the Lord is in war.
Raphael.
No.
Angel.
No.
Was the angel? No, it wasn't.
What was
Not
the
an
question?
angel.
Wasn't an angel.
Who came to tell Abraham that Abraham that Lot is a prisoner of war, was captured?
I was servant. Eliab? No.
You remember that? Yeah. Somebody a little big.
It wasn't Shem. It wasn't. No.
Og. Og, Mr. Og. It's not written in the text, Og, it's written a refugee came. And Abraham went to war after the 4 kings, and he fought them until Dan. But Rashi says, why the Torah writes up till Dan? That he came to Dan, he didn't have the strength anymore. Why? Why came to Dan? He did not have the strength. And here he says, from Dan comes the Tzoras. In Dan we're already the enemy. What is it about Dan? What happened in Tel Dan? The place exists today. There's a place that's called Tel Dan, and they've excavated a whole structure. What happened in Tel Dan?
Idol worship, I would guess.
Yeah, idol worship. In Dan was idol worshipping. Which idol worshipping was in Dan?
Baal?
No. Worse than the Baal.
Or was it the one where they sacrificed the children?
No.
Molech.
Dior?
Peor was in a different place. No. But when was idol worshipping in big scales in the Jewish people?
During the first temple.
When?
Towards the end.
No, it was before that.
Oh.
You know, we all know about the golden calf. I have some news for you. The Jewish people, it wasn't one-time event. They were worshiping the golden calf. They made a mistake. Moses showed up.
They did
No,
it in
no.
the north.
Oh,
You're talking about during the Israel.
Jeroboam.
Jeroboam.
Right,
Jeroboam
there was
ben
a-
Nevad. Where they did it?
in the north, and
Tel Dan.
that was still done, yep.
They did it in 2 places. What happened is like this. We mentioned that a few times that after Solomon died, the kingdom of Israel was divided into 2 kingdoms, right? Rehavam was the son of Solomon. He stayed in Jerusalem. And then the 10 tribes of Israel, the 10 lost tribes, made their own kingdom. Who was the king? Yerovam ben Nevat. Jeroboam. He decided if the Jews will go to Jerusalem, what will be with them? They will all become members of Jerusalem. He closed the ways to Jerusalem. But the Jews need to serve. That he established 2 centers to go to. One in Dan, in the north, and one in Bethel, not far from Jerusalem, north of Jerusalem. And he established 2 golden calves. Can you believe it? Golden calves! And the Jews, and he encouraged it, and he established a new holiday. We used to go on the 15th of Tishrei at Sukkot. A month later, He made a holiday. This is the time to go to the idols, worship him. And he was the first one to do it, and everybody came with him. It was a whole story. And the center stood for hundreds of years, I think. And they discovered the excavation that they argue that this is the place that he used to worship idols.
And what was the purpose of the king doing that?
Shouldn't have to go to Jerusalem.
Just to split them away?
It was a way to distinguish themselves from
Yeah.
And
Judah.
he also protected the king, because he wanted to protect his own kingship, because
Yeah,
otherwise,
sure.
because the king of Judah would be reading, that they would be hearing him speak as if he was the king, and that makes him lesser. But my question
Yeah.
is that, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Then the
Yeah.
point is, we have here 3 stories of Dan. Time of Abraham was Dan. Here, that's 4,000 years ago. This story is 2,500 years ago, give or take. And the story with the Jeroboam ben Nevat, is 3,000 years ago, close. Then Abraham couldn't fight more than Dan, lost his strength when he came to Dan. But Rashi says, the Talmud says, why he lost his strength? Because he had a feeling that his descendants were going to worship idols now. That he didn't have the strength to continue. He lost it, he didn't even know why. And here, why the Tzores come from Dan? Because it was a place of idol worshipping. And here comes the first Tzores, even that the destruction of the first temple was already probably 100 years after Dan was gone. The 10 tribes were already exiled, were gone. But still that was the beginning of the place of the Tzores, because it was a place for idol worshipping.
Was that considered more of the major center than
Then Bethel?
Bethel?
Probably. Now, why they choose a golden calf? I still don't get it. Golden calf, every Jew learned the Torah knows that a golden calf is a terrible thing. Why they chose a golden calf again?
Wasn't a cow of Egypt special animal there? that
Yeah,
could be
but
protected?
Jeroboam was already quite a few years after Egypt. It was 300
And
years after
why
Egypt.
two? Like the cherubs?
No, that's interesting that you say. Some commentators want to say that he wanted to do something like the cherubs, some type of reflection of it. That's why he chose a golden calf. Other commentators say that it's written when Moses blessed the 12 tribes, he blessed the 12 tribes. What he compared them to? What?
Dan was a serpent.
Joseph, the tribe of Joseph. To what he compared them?
Ox?
An ox. That's why they made a calf. Exactly.
How do you, those are different animals.
Well, in Psalms, it talks about a
No, I
graceful
don't think
ox.
so.
It talks
A
about
calf is a baby cow.
But an ox is not a cow.
Right, that's right.
And I don't know how they say that. Maybe the horns are the same or something. They say they connected to a Maybe the horns is compared to some. What's a reim? 1 second, let's see. What's a reim?
Unless they call
Yes,
a
it's
baby
a-
ox
I mean,
also a calf.
That's an ox skull.
I suspect they probably do.
There is a connection. I can promise you this. This is coming from Don Isaac Abarbanel. Then it's Cher Shere Odorloi וכאן נראים כאנוב. Number 17.
I know in Psalms it
What's
says-
a Irax? O-R-Y-X.
Isn't that the one with the real,
Onyx?
Irex.
Irax.
is that the one with the really long horns?
Yeah.
I think with
Or is it
the
something else?
Somehow it has a connection to golden calf, I can tell you that. In any case, here we're going back here. By the way, that's the old job of the rabbis from the Medrash, how they put the whole thing together. And suddenly everything makes sense. Everything is connected.
The baby ox, by the way, I just looked up, is
Is-
called a stot calf.
Here you go.
The calf is in there.
This is a sign
Exactly.
of
Listen, I'm not a zoologist, but Barbanel wouldn't make the connection if it wouldn't be connected.
I'm sure they know what they're doing.
Okay, we'll go back to number 16. This no, go
The
ahead.
snorting of horses were already heard from Dan when the enemy reached there. The whole land will shake from the noise of the warriors. They will come and devour the land and its man-made contents, cities and their inhabitants. For behold, I will incite against you enemies that are like serpents, snakes, which cannot be charmed, and they will bite you, says Hashem.
What means they cannot be charmed? Can an animal be charmed?
Yeah.
But the commentaries say, back to zoology, that a snake, when he gets old, he doesn't hear well. When he's young, you can scare him with noise and this. When he's old, he doesn't hear. He's losing his hearing side, his hearing powers, and therefore you cannot charm him. And so will be the enemies that you will not be able to charm them. They will attack you and you will not be able to stop.
Is there a connection with Dan and serpents? Wasn't he
Yeah,
the serpent?
very good,
He used to
yeah.
bite the heel?
In the blessings from Jacob to Dan, you bless him, he should be like a snake, yeah.
It's like-
Yeah, very good, yeah. Everything is connected, guys. Go ahead, continue. Barry?
I try to overcome my grief, but my heart is sick within me. And how can it not be when in my eyes the exile has already begun, and it is as if I hear the voice of my people crying from a distant land.
He says, Jeremiah says, I hear it already. It's so real that I hear the crying. How can I not be sick of pain? Go ahead.
All this could have been avoided through prayer. For is Hashem not in Zion to listen to your prayers? Isn't the Jewish people's king in her midst, waiting to respond to her prayers? Why, instead of praying to me, do they continue to anger me with their graven idols, their foreign vanities?
Okay, what he says here, the prophet says, now is the time to pray. You'll go to exile and you pray from there, pray now. Isn't God in Zion? Isn't he waiting here now for you? He's waiting for your prayers. But when he's in Zion, when he's in Jerusalem, you're busy with the idols. Instead, I want you to pray now. Later you'll be praying, you'll be kind of a little too late, you'll be already out of Israel. God will still hear the prayers, but not in the same, but you'll be already exiled.
Where did he tell this to the people?
This?
Yeah, in
Jeremiah
Israel?
was around Jerusalem, running around and giving prophecies. Nobody loved him.
No, but he was in Jerusalem. He wasn't in Israel, was he?
What do you mean nothing?
I mean, within with the
Around Jerusalem. At that time, there was nothing else. The 10 tribes were already exiled, gone.
Oh,
Didn't Hashem say to Jeremiah, go tell the people these things, that you'll get beaten and hurt, but I'll
Yeah,
protect you
yeah,
and you won't get killed.
Yeah. He
you're
almost
gonna
killed. Short of killed, he got everything.
But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. It was a time, in the beginning of Jeremiah's time, there was a king Yoshiao that tried to do a renaissance of bringing Jews back to Judaism. In the beginning it was very exciting, but then it didn't work. The Jews didn't really change. Okay, number 20.
We await salvation, but the harvest has passed and summer is over, and we have not been saved.
Which salvation are we awaiting, they're awaiting? You can say God's salvation, and it didn't come. And also, at that time, the kingdom of Judah, who they trusted to, who they relied on politically? Egypt. They were going against Babylon with the Egypt is going to protect us. Egypt is going to help
Jeremiah
us.
ended up dying in Egypt.
You're right. Or Jeremiah told them a whole day not to rely on Egypt, right?
trust him.
Hundreds of times he told them, God wants you to surrender to Babylon, not to Egypt. But the Jews said, no, we're going with Egypt. We made peace process with Egypt, helped us out, right? We made peace process with Jordan, and yesterday we saw how much it's worth. Then the Jews always went on the wrong side of the politics. We have a tradition. We never ruin our traditions in making mistakes. Then here's another example. Okay, number 21.
I am broken because I have seen how in the future my people will be broken. I am dulled, and desolation has taken hold of me.
He says he's paralyzed. He sees the future. He sees how bad it's going to be. Okay.
Is there no Torah or mitzvahs among the Jewish people to save them, like the healing balm from Gilead? Is there no sage, no spiritual doctor there? Why have my people not been healed and redeemed?
He says, the text itself says, there is no cure in Gilead? There no doctor there? Why nobody can cure them? Or in the commentaries, in parentheses, it's commentaries. It says, they don't have a doctor, a spiritual doctor. They don't have Torah or mitzvahs that can cure them. What's wrong with these people? Why they're going the wrong direction? Number 23.
If only my head were water and my eyes fountains of tears, so I could cry day and night over the slain of my people.
He says he's so upset that it's only crying will give him some relief. He cannot even cry. That's how bad it is. That's the end of chapter 8. Chapter 9 continues like just on the same mode. It's not even clear why this chapter was stopped here. You know that the chapters in the Tanakh, in the Bible, was not set up necessarily. Who made the chapters?
Rabbis.
Really?
No?
No?
The Masoretic period, right? In
Who
the
did
10th
it?
century.
Somebody not Jewish, a Christian author, made the chapters.
Oh.
The Jewish people have Parshas, have Aliyahs. The chapters is not a Jewish thing. Therefore, some chapters you can see that they're not really the right place to make a chapter. Every verse is a verse. There is Parshas in the Torah, there is in spaces between. If you look at the Torah itself, you see spaces. That's how you go between stories. But the chapters are not authored by Jewish people, but we go by them because everybody goes by them. There's no point to argue and to fight it. And in many times, it's divided correct, but many times not necessarily.
Who made up the trope?
The trope that comes from the beginning all the way. The trope is like
Yeah.
punctuation.
Yeah, right.
That's the way to understand the story. That's the way the Jewish people didn't forget the Torah because they had the trope.
That was oral tradition from Moshe. Yeah.
I mean,
But did that come from Hashem? Like that came.
Yeah.
the way the trope come from Hashem, I don't know.
I
No,
mean, how would somebody learn that?
the Jewish people, when they taught their children, they made a trope in a way. There is many tropes actually. Not all tropes are exactly the same. Sephardic trope is not exactly like the Ashkenazi trope.
But of course, the notations for the trope are not in the scroll.
No, they're not.
Right?
They're not.
So,
They're created
it
ever.
doesn't do you any good unless
You remember it.
it's a way of associating.
You're right. They have to remember the trope. And the Yemenite Jews, they are very good in remembering the trope. That the teachers used to teach them when they were very little kids, used to teach them the trope. And woe to the boy who did not listen. They had a long stick, and they gave it to them. And all the Ammonites know the trope. I mean, the whole generation.
Because it's a melody, it's a melodic.
Sure, it's a melody. That's how you know when the beginning of the verse, where it's the end of the verse. Okay, chapter 9, number 1.
If only I were in the desert at a traveler's inn, so I could abandon my people and go away from them. For they are all adulterers, a bunch of traitors.
Whoa. First of all, what is that Jeremiah says? It's not clear if Jeremiah says it or God says it. In these two chapters and many others, the prophet speaks in his name and in the name of God as going back and forth. Here he says, if only I could run away, go to the desert and leave my people. Who else before did it?
Oh, Jonah.
Jonah tried to run away, not to the desert.
No.
But who else went to the desert?
Oh.
David?
No.
That's afterwards.
David also ran away from Saul, but not from his people. Elijah ran away. He was afraid they'll kill him. He ran away to the desert. Here, Jeremiah says, I wish I could run away to the desert, not to see the pain, what is going to befall upon the Jewish people. On one hand, he's loving them, he's so strong with them, he wants to be there with them. But he says, I wish I could go there. The other explanation is that God says it. God was in the desert when the Jewish people were in the desert. He says, I wish I can go away from the Jews and go to the desert. Okay, then because they're all traders. Okay, number 2.
They bend their tongues like bows to speak falsehood and hurt others. Those who grow powerful in the land do not do so to promote faith, for they go from evil to evil, and they do not know me, says God.
Now, what's the main problem that Jeremiah is speaking about? He's speaking about that the Jewish people, that the people are not honest. They speak lies, they're not honest to each other. With their mouth, they are killing each other. They're gossiping, they're lying. It becomes a culture of liars. Everybody is lying and nobody thinks about saying the truth. And he continues with this in number 3 in an even more sharper way.
Let each person beware of his friend, not to tell him your secrets. Don't trust any brother, for every brother acts crookedly, and every friend goes around gossiping. Each man mocks another.
Whoa. Let's stop right here. When in the recent history, I can tell you, it was like this in the communist Russia. People were afraid to tell each other not because the other person is going to tell about them. If the other person will be arrested and investigated, if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have to hide anything. Then you're better off not knowing. Then it was a culture in Russia. People never ask each other, what's your name? I can be talking to you for 2 years and I not know your full name.
They want anonymity.
Nobody was asking each other the names.
Also, the walls had ears, right? There was an expression.
Yeah, better off, no, everybody said to himself, better off not knowing. Talk about anything you want, the weather and the days and stories,
Because
everything.
they're so frightened of the state.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what he says, and people could not trust anybody, because one brother is a communist, the other this. People did not trust their own children. They used to put on film under the cover. That the child should not see him putting on film, because maybe he said something in the school, and somebody will arrest him, and it'll be the end of it. Then, that's what he says. Jeremiah tells it was such a bad culture in Jerusalem at that time. He says you cannot trust your own brother. It's terrible. It's very sad. Number 4.
They do not speak the truth. They have trained their tongues to speak falsehood, and they strive to be dishonest. You live amid deceit. In their deceit, they refuse to know me, says God.
But it's all coming because they don't want to, they refuse to know me. Not refuse to believe in me, refuse to know me, to know God. That was the problem. Knowing God means feeling that God is around, having an awareness of God. Number 6, I think we are, right?
Therefore, the God of hosts says, I will refine them and test them with suffering for what I can do to my people. I cannot leave them to destroy themselves through their own sins.
Basically, God says, I cannot leave them. To a point, it's a comforting message. Because they are bad, I have to correct them, I have to fix them. I cannot let them go like this.
I thought with the first temple, the problem was idol worship. The second temple was more of a man-to-man problem.
Obviously.
There's a combination. It's not so straightforward.
Sure. It was always a man-to-man problem. For God, between God and man, God will forgive you. But for man to man, God doesn't forgive. God cannot see how his children are fighting each other. If there is unity, everything could be worked out. And it's ultimately, but also, if people are idol worshippers and they don't believe in God, that there is no morality, it's something. You cannot be an idol worshipper and be the nicest guy in town. It just doesn't work. Because what means an idol worshipper? You choose your idol. You choose your God. You do whatever you want. That's bottom line. You choose your God. Not God chooses you, you choose your God. Oh, I don't like this God, I'll take this God. You know, there's a famous joke about a rabbi came to a synagogue. They wanted to interview him, to take him a job. He tells them, here is my sets of beliefs, of mission statement, so to speak. But if you don't like it, I have another one. You understand? That's a problem. Then
It sounds like a purely secular culture that we see now. I mean,
it's the same thing in secular culture. The moment there is no accountability for higher power, I do whatever I want.
it's this relativism.
Yeah, that if I do whatever I want, everything is available. I can justify every behavior. That's exactly the problem. You're right. Okay. Where are we? Number 7? Okay.
Their tongue is a drawn arrow which speaks deception openly to a person speaking peacefully to his friends, but inside he plans to attack him.
Basically, people are not honest. They say one thing, they smile to you, but deep down they are planning to kill you, to hurt you. Number 8.
Shall I not watch them and punish them for this, says God? Shall my soul not take revenge on a nation like this?
Why, what Haftorah of Tisha B'Av? Okay, let's continue number 9.
I will weep a chant over the mountains and a lament over the pastures in the desert, for they have been laid waste so that no man passes by, and no sound of cattle is heard. The birds of the sky and the beasts have moved and left.
Everybody left, even the beast, even the... Go ahead.
I will turn Jerusalem into rubble, into a den for snakes. I will make the cities of Yehuda desolate, void of inhabitants.
And that's what actually happened. For 52 years after the destruction of the first temple, Judah was desolated. Nothing was there. Not Jews and not non-Jews, nothing. Okay, now it's number 11. Let's see, it says maybe something more optimistic, kind of.
Whoever is wise will understand the following, and whoever God has spoken to can interpret this. Why has the land been destroyed and laid waste like a desert, with no one passing through? God says...
The question, why is the land lost? Alma of the Oretz. God is answering. God says,
God says it is because they abandoned the study of my Torah, which I have given before them, and therefore they did not obey me and did not follow it.
Okay, let's stop right here. Because they abandoned me the Torah. They abandoned the Torah. He's asking why the land is desolated, because they abandoned the Torah. We'll read now, in the bottom of the page, number 11, there is a note of this verse. Go ahead.
Whoever is wise will understand the following. Why has the land been destroyed, etc.? This question was put to the sages, prophets, and ministering angels, but they could not
This
answer.
question, the Talmud says, was put to prophets, to sages, and to ministering angels, but they could not answer it.
So God himself explained it, as the verse states, God says, it is because they abandoned the study of my Torah, etc.
Okay.
That they did not first recite the blessings over Torah study.
Okay, the Talmud says the question and the answer is not a simple question. Why did the land? Because they abandoned the Torah. It's not it doesn't need God himself to come up with such a good answer. Everybody can answer it, right? Obviously, the question is a little deeper and the answer is a little deeper. If a question was asked, why the land was desolated, why we lost the land, why we lost Israel, and not sages, and not prophets, and not ministering angels couldn't answer it, and you needed God himself to answer it, obviously there is a different conversation here. It says because they abandoned my Torah. It's not written they abandoned the Torah. They abandoned my Torah, Torati. What does this mean? That he says here, they did not first recite the blessing over the Torah study. What does this mean? That's the Talmud answer. In the morning, before we study Torah, in the morning every day, we say the blessing, the same blessing that we say when we read from the Torah. That same blessing we say every morning. Before you learn Torah, you say a blessing. Why we need to say a blessing before we do something? Before we eat, before we do a mitzvah, before we learn Torah?
To bring down godliness. To thank Hashem. Bring down godliness.
To recognize that I got a cup of water from God, right? Simple. To recognize that the Torah is from God. Let's continue to read a little bit. The Talmud concludes
that our verse must be referring to a failure to make the blessings over the Torah, and not the actual neglect of Torah study, for otherwise the sages, prophets, and ministering angels would not have had difficulty answering such a message of gloom and destruction. After an opening which depicts the inevitable doom that is to come, the Haftorah relates heartfelt...
No, you're on the wrong page.
I am?
Turn the next page.
Oh, sorry. Okay, wait.
Turn the next page.
Prophets and administrators would not have had difficulty answering such a straightforward question. Why has the land been destroyed, etc.? Thus, their sin was a failure to connect with the holiness and spirituality of the Torah and to draw down the divine presence. Therefore, the land was destroyed. That is, its physical matter remained without the holiness of the divine presence to be found there. From here, we can learn the tremendous importance of appreciating the holiness and divine authorship of the Torah as a crucial prerequisite to Torah study.
Okay, what is going on here? You can learn Torah and forget of God who gives the Torah. If you learn the Torah and you don't appreciate that you are talking of God's wisdom, and this is to bring you to a more spiritual place, and the Torah is to teach you something. It's not like you learn science or you learn math. You learn and you close the book and you move on. This is something that they have to teach you. You're dealing with the Torah of God. And that's what they were missing. They were missing the idea that they were learning a powerful a Torah that God was given. The point they didn't make a blessing is not so much they forgot to make a blessing. Yeah, it could be. But even when they made a blessing, they were not thinking that this is God's wisdom. It's not human wisdom. And if you look at it, it's human wisdom. Oh, I don't understand it. I'll say a different explanation. I'll disagree with God. This is God. God gave me the honor to learn His Torah. I better treat it like the holiest thing, like God, something that belongs to God. And learn it with humbleness and ask myself every day, what can the Torah teach me? And because they did not learn the Torah in such a way, they reached to everything. They were able to go down to even to idol worshipping, because they took like the Torah is theirs and they can do with it whatever they want. To a point, it's also, some people, when the Rebbe came out with the whole idea of reaching out, going out to secular Jews and to teach them Torah, that many religious rabbis, great rabbis, learn Torah every minute of the day, they said, well, it's not going to work. Why should a secular Jew want to learn Torah? What is it, crazy? Why? What he has there? What is there for him? That's what they said. Why should he want to put on film? What is there for him? Somebody who thinks like this, to a point, is insulting the Torah. You understand? He looks at the Torah like, I learn Torah because I know it's the Torah of God and I enjoy it. But he doesn't see where the Torah is a message to every human being. Where the Torah is relevant in 2017. And the Rebbe said the Torah is a message to everyone and people will like it. You have to have faith in your product. It's almost like a guy who says, you come up with a new idea. And everybody knows the difference in America and Israel. In Israel, if you have a new invention, at least was years ago, not today, this is now never going to work. Never. Everybody discouraged you. In America, people tell you, go for it. Yeah, what a great idea. That's a different in the world. If you don't believe in your product, who's going to buy it? Then you're right, a rabbi who doesn't believe that his message, that a secular Jew will want to put on film, will never be able to convince anybody to put on film. You have to believe in it. And that's, people learn Torah, but they didn't learn that it's Torah, my Torah. They didn't realize it's God's Torah. And if it's God's Torah, it's an unlimited Torah, and there's a message to every human being.
Right.
Wherever he is in every generation.
Right. So it's a universal
Absolutely.
document. And in Abraham, at the beginning, God said, "No, all the families of the earth will bless themselves
To be like you.
by you."
Absolutely.
This is and Abraham traveled all over, Egypt and everywhere, basically spreading the word.
And by the way, it's written in the beginning of this parsha, Deuteronomy. We're going to read Deuteronomy. We read the beginning of. We're going to read Deuteronomy. I'm sorry, I'm already confused. Then it's written that Moses. What's Deuteronomy? It's one long speech that Moses gave in the last 5 weeks of his life. It's written, he translated the Torah in 70 languages. That's what's written. Whatever it means, I cannot tell you exactly what it means. If he translated only the Ten Commandments, he translated 70 languages, maybe only 36. The point is, he created the ability to translate the Torah to other languages. It means he created the ability that the Torah is a message to every human being, not just to Jews. And that started with Moses. That's why there is in the Torah some Egyptian words. Where there is an Egyptian word in the Torah? Some are very famous.
I don't know.
That's a little, very good.
What?
The first word of the Ten Commandments is Anochi. Now it's a word in Hebrew. Anochi means me. That Rashi says, Anochi Loshen Mitzri. Anochi is an Egyptian word. Why should God start the Ten Commandments an Egyptian word? Couldn't find some Jewish word. I couldn't say Ani. Ani is the regular word. Ani, Hashem Elokecha, I am your God. In many, many places it's written Ani, not Anochi. God wanted, in the Ten Commandments, in the Torah, he already put some words of other languages to give the space for the translation of the Torah to others.
I mean, in the beginning, there was the Torah in Aramaic.
Wasn't so simple. The Torah was first translated to Greek. It was a story that in the Second Temple, the famous story that a king commissioned in Egypt, Talmai, the king commissioned 120 scholars, put them in 120 small rooms, and told them to translate the Torah. And he wanted to get them in trouble because nobody translates the same way that another person translates. And miraculously, they made changes, but all of them made the same changes.
That's the Septuagint.
Exactly. And the day the translation was completed, in Egypt was a happy day, and in Israel was a day considered like the destruction, like the breaking of the tablets. Why? Because the moment everybody can understand the Torah, now everybody is a chacham on his own. So, it's written,
It says it can't be abrogated.
Everyone takes his own commentary.
You can't add or subtract.
More than that, every word in the Torah, the moment you translate it, you can only translate the surface. You cannot translate the deeper meaning. For example, even here in the Haftorah, it's written nation, but in Hebrew, it's batami. He calls them my daughter nation, like an expression of endearing. Even while he reprimands them, it's lost in English. It's not even translated. And if you want, we are in Chofar, whatever. It's in a few places here in this page and this page. He's using the word batami, my daughter nation, so to speak.
Batya.
Not Batya. Batya is a name, yeah. But what I need to say is there is so much lost in that's even on surface. There is out limited. In any case, that's what he says here. They were learning Torah, but they didn't believe that they didn't learn that as the Torah of God. We are number 13. They followed the fancies of their hearts.
They followed the fancies of their hearts and the Baal idols as their fathers taught them.
As their fathers taught them. They continued the tradition. Their fathers were idol worshippers and they were idol worshippers. Therefore,
this is what the God of hosts, the God of Israel says. I will feed this people wormwood and make them drink hemlock water. I will scatter them among nations which neither they nor their ancestors knew, and there I will send the sword after them until I have destroyed them. Beautiful.
continue.
This is what he, God of hosts, says. Contemplate this impending misfortune. Call the dirge singers, and have them come. Send for the skilled women who compose verses of doom, and have them come. Let them hurry and start lamenting for us, so our eyes will run with tears and our eyelids will drip with water. For the sound of wailing is heard from Zion.
Mm-hmm.
How we are ruined. We are greatly ashamed, for we have abandoned our land and have been thrown out of our dwellings. O woman, listen to God's words of impending punishment. Let your ears take heed of the word of his mouth. Teach your daughters how to wail, and each woman teach dirges to her friend. For even if we shut out our doors, death will enter our windows and come into
our places.
Our palaces, cutting off babies outside and young men in the streets.
Okay, you continue.
Say this to the Jewish people, says Hashem, that men's carcasses will fall numerous like dung on the fields, like sheaves behind the reaper, with no one to gather them up for burial, for they will be afraid to leave their homes themselves.
Okay. Now comes something a little more optimistic. The end of the Haftorah is usually finishing in a more positive note. Go ahead, Barry.
This is what Hashem says. The wise man should not be proud of his wisdom. The
wise man should not be proud of this wisdom. Why not? Okay, continue.
The warrior should not be proud of his heroism.
Okay.
And the rich should not be proud of his riches.
Nothing to be proud of. Not of our wisdom, not of our strength, not of our richness. Go ahead.
For none of them will be able to save themselves. Rather, it is only with this that a person may be proud of himself, knowing and understanding me. For I am Hashem, who performs kindness, justice, and righteousness on earth, since these are the things that I desire, says Hashem.
What is he saying here? What you should be proud of? Knowing God, learning and knowing God. What means to know God? He gives an explanation. Knowing God is not enough just to know God. Whoa, let's learn Kabbalah, we'll go for a weekend, we'll study Kabbalah. What is knowing God? He says right away.
Understanding.
For I am God, knowing and understanding God, and he says, knowing God was doing what? To perform kindness, justice, and righteousness. Knowing God means to do what God is doing. Action. By the end of the day, it's a matter of action. Every time the Rebbe used to speak for 5 hours, give lectures, and then he used to end the whole thing. Then what's the bottom line? What are we going to do tomorrow? And he laid down the bed. He never gave a lecture, no matter what the issue was, without a bottom line, a conclusion. What does this mean to me? How I'm going to practice it? How it's going to be motivating me to do A, B, and C? Every time was a different message, but it will always had to end up with something to do. Because God is a God of justice, kindness, and charity. That's what God is all about, righteousness. Now, it doesn't mean a person should not be proud of his wisdom. He learned, he should be embarrassed about it, what?
But he should have humility to recognize that it's a gift from Hashem. That everything derives from
thing. Very good.
To spread his knowledge around.
Then he could be proud of his knowledge, he could be proud of his heroism or his physical strength.
What do you do with it?
He can be proud of his richness. As long as he knows God and he knows that all of them come from God, then it's good. We don't say he should throw away the money. We don't say that money is bad or knowledge is bad or strength is bad. God created all of this. As long as it's coming from the right place. As long as you recognize that it's coming from God and you put it to the service of God to spread righteousness and justice and charity and kindness, then it's perfect. There is a similar thing to it. We say, Sheker achen ve'evel hayofi. Isha irat Hashem iti talal. Who recognizes this?
Hello.
Sheker achen ve'evel hayofi. Only a praiseworthy woman should be in Eshet Chai. What is written there? Who remembers the verse incomplete?
Beauty is not.
Beauty is not. And
God's film is to be praised.
no, beauty is not, and charm is deceptive. A woman who is a God-fearing woman should be praiseworthy. Fine, yeah, sure. Then what does this mean? Then it's a bad thing. God made beauty. God made charm. If you are a God-fearing person, then the beauty and the charm will be used for good things. Nothing wrong with that. Just the opposite. As long as there were once to the Rebbe came a whole delegation of beauty queens from Israel. They came to America and they called their Rebbe's office to give out dollars on Sunday to every person, give them a blessing. And they asked if they can come. They will come all dressed up modesty and everything. if they can come together, get blessing for the Rebbe. The office told them, sure. They came. Somebody presented them. This is the whole group who came, a beauty contest. They came to America. The Rebbe told them this line. The Rebbe told them, it's written in Proverbs, Sheker Achem Ve'evel Hayofi. They were Israelis, they understood Hebrew. It says, praise, if you're a God-fearing person, then the beauty and the charm is praiseworthy. Nothing wrong with that. Just like here. If you're becoming arrogant because of your knowledge and your money and your strength, that's a problem. But if you know God and you use all of your tools to spread what God wants, that you're praiseworthy. Then that's the will of God, the desire of God.